fresh dinner rolls. Something my family has never once served at Thanksgiving. But every girl that I've ever brought home for the holidays has scolded me for not serving fresh dinner rolls. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks there are already ample amount of carbs at Thanksgiving, but maybe I'm wrong. So today we're making some extraordinary fresh dinner rolls, served of course with fresh honey butter. And it starts with the dry ingredients. First, we're going in with 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And I'm well aware the best way to measure something like a dry ingredient, especially for baking, is in grams with a scale, but not everybody has a scale and some people want to still bake. So instead of taking your full cup and dipping it into the bag of flour, take a spoon and just gently place the flour into the measuring cup. Then you can take a knife and just cut it up to kind of spread it out evenly. And then any excess, you just scrape back into the bag. And that's how you measure a cup without a scale. So we're gonna go with 3.5 of those measurements. Then to that, I've got a packet of instant yeast. This one has dough enhancer in it. If you find that, great. If not, no problem. You can use active dry yeast, but the benefit of this is this can get mixed directly into the dry ingredients. Active dry yeast needs to be bloomed. Add it to water, a little bit of sugar to feed it, and then you can start to use it. Basically the same thing. This is just a little bit more reliable. So we're just gonna go in with that whole package. And then in with about a teaspoon or like a big pinch of salt. Whisk it all together, set that off to the side. Now I've got 4 tablespoons of room temperature butter, 1 room temperature egg, 1 cup of whole milk, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. I want this to be warm, around 100, 110 degrees, so I'm just gonna hit it in the microwave 30 seconds until we get about that temperature. Perfect, 102. Gonna add the sugar, gonna add the egg, then we're gonna whisk it together. So now we're gonna take our wet and our dry and our butter, which I'm just gonna add a little bit at a time. And we're gonna use our KitchenAid. You can do this by hand, just like kneading dough. But if you got one of these during the holidays, what are you doing? So I'm gonna take my dough hook. We're gonna turn on the mixer to about medium speed, and we're gonna gradually add in the egg and milk mixture, along with little knobs of that butter throughout the process. The same way you might see a pizza maker making pizza dough, adding water and flour in increments over time, just to make sure that all that flour gets nicely hydrated over the process of this mixing. Once all the milk, egg, and butter have been combined, we just wanna knead this for about 8 to 10 minutes. And what'll happen is as that dough starts to hydrate, it'll loosen up, but then over time, as it needs more, it'll start to tighten up, build gluten, become less sticky and wet, develop structure, and what I look for is at the bottom, when all of that sticky dough is stuck to the bottom of the bowl. Once that starts to pull up and get combined into one homogeneous ball of dough, that's usually when I know the dough is done. So now we wanna take a bowl and just grease it with some butter. Get that dough hook clean. That's a beautiful piece of dough. Get that into that greased bowl, cover it, and then set it in a nice warm place. And we're gonna allow it to rise for about 1 to 2 hours or until it's about double in size. Should fill this entire bowl. Beautiful. All you really did was sit there and watch it mix, then sit there and watch it rise. It couldn't be easier. Now we're gonna punch it down, lightly flour your work surface, get it nice and dusted so it's not really that sticky and it's not gonna stick to the board. And then I just sort of kinda get it into a nice sort of rectangle. And then we're gonna cut it into 12 pieces. And we're looking for about 2¼ ounce balls. Then after they're all weighed out, we need to turn them into nice, beautiful little rolls. So just like a little pizza dough, I'm gonna fold it onto itself, create a nice taut surface, and then take the underside and just pinch it and seal it closed. And then use the edges of my hand to just sort of shape it and give the ball height. And then just go ahead and make your way through all of those balls. And then again, for our second rise, we wanna grease a 9x13 baking dish. Ultimately, the thing we're gonna bake the rolls in. And then we want to start to add in the balls of dough, the little space in between each. And we're just gonna cover it. While these rise, I'm gonna preheat the oven to 375 degrees. And while that heats up, we're gonna allow these to again double in size. And while those rise, we can make our fresh butter. Bring back our kitchen mixer, get our bowl back in it. This time we're going to be adding the whisk attachment, and we're gonna be adding 2 cups of heavy cream. And then we're just gonna turn this on medium to medium high, and we're gonna allow this to work. It's first gonna become a whipped cream, and then once you go past the whipped cream, once you screw that up, you're going to sort of get curds. It's gonna break a little bit, and then that's gonna begin the process of making the butter. And you could start off on a high speed, but once that milk starts seeping out, it's gonna splash at you. So you slow it down, and once all that butter has separated from the buttermilk, you're good to go. It's kind of crazy, right? That's maybe one of the easiest things you're ever gonna do. Then we strain the buttermilk out. So now you got buttermilk here, you can use it like buttermilk, but we can set that off to the side. Next, we wanna remove all of that buttermilk from that butter, so we need to wash it. Now, it would be easier for you to do this under the sink, but I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. You can rinse this until it just kind of rinses clear. And then you have a ball of fresh butter. Then we can just use some flat wooden utensils and just sort of shape it into a rectangle. But I forgot I wanted to salt it, so you add a little salt to it, you mix it right in, mold it back into a rectangle, and you're ready to go. Then what we can do, take 2 spoons and then start to shape and mold it into what restaurants call a quenelle. You're kind of getting 1 spoon on top of the other and then kind of pushing, compressing it, and scooping to shape it. A nice dollop of fresh butter that we can drizzle with some honey at the end and then sprinkle some sea salt on top. Last thing to do, we take an egg, take a little of that buttermilk that we saved, and we're just gonna brush this on top of the buns before they bake to give them a nice little sheen. Our buns have doubled in size. And they're all sort of now touching and supporting each other so that they will lift when they bake. Now we can just brush the buns with that egg wash, make sure they get nicely coated. And then we can pop these into a 375-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes, rotating halfway through. So halfway through, we're gonna give it that rotate. Make sure those buns get a nice golden brown across the entire exposed surface. We've also got some butter melting at the top of the stove while those bake, so we can brush it on top after. Been about 20 minutes, let's pull it out. So right when they come out, what we're gonna do is take that melted butter. Oh yeah, and a little flaky sea salt. And just let these kind of chill out for a second. And then on that butter, we can just drizzle a little bit of honey and flaky sea salt. And then you got some unrivaled, soft, pillowy dinner rolls that anyone can make. Tender. You barely need to use your teeth. That paired with fresh, sweet butter. If you're in need of more carbs at Thanksgiving, because Lord knows I'm not, this is the perfect accompaniment to your turkey dinner. Dip it in some gravy, a little bit of the butter. Now, you know me, all my recipes are usually down in the description for free, but it's the holidays, which means it's time for the holiday plan of attack. It's my holiday ebook. This is a one-of-one copy, not a book yet. And every year I add to it, and all my holiday recipes, family recipes go into it. And I sell it on my website, self-published author, and it has effectively helped people cook their holidays for years now. If you want to get the recipe, the link to this is going to be down in the description. That's all that I got today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.